Hello and welcome to the Sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Standard Open in Columbus, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside our number one player in the Player of the Year race, Jeff Hoogland. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Nick.
It's new standard, it's Jeff Hoogland, it's deck tech time. That's basically how we roll around here. Back when Origins came out, you were first on board with Hangerback Walker.
Yep.
But when a new set comes out, we expect you to be on some wacky deck, something trying a bunch of 2s and 3-ofs. Not today, not this weekend. You're on Blue-White Spirits. You're 4-0, and a bunch of your friends who are playing it are also just kind of crushing right now.
Yeah, we're collectively 8-1-1 between the group of us, and the draw was a win with a couple more turns if he'd have played a little quicker. So very happy with our performance so far.
A lot of talk about Eldritch Moods coming into the set. Spirits is going to be a thing, but what is the right build of Spirits? Is it Bant? Is it Blue-White? Is it lower to the ground? Is it bigger? You've tested a lot. You put up a lot of testing videos on your YouTube channel and streaming and stuff. You have a build that you like. Why?
Yep, so the one thing that this configuration does differently from a lot of the other Spirits lists that I've seen is two things. The first is that Avacyn is still just the best flying flash creature in the format. Like, all these other ones are great, but she's just super powerful, and you should be playing 4 of her, I feel, if you're playing a Spirits type deck. She generates card advantage. It doesn't look like it, but in addition to her sweeper, she also usually eats something when she comes into play, so she's a removal spell, and then a clock that allows you to catch up from boards that you normally wouldn't be able to catch up from with the normal Spirits build without her.
Right.
The other thing
Honorary Spirit.
Honorary Spirit, yep. The other thing we're doing differently is that we're playing Planner Outburst, not even just in the 75, but we've got copies in the main deck. That's easily the best card against all of these collected companies in the white-red aggressive deck. And you were already playing Selfless Spirit because it was reasonable at protecting your Spell Queller. Well, the number of times that you sack your Selfless Spirit and then Plague Wind with your Planner Outburst, it comes up a lot.
Right, I saw you last round against Andy Ferguson have that exact scenario come up. He was kind of stabilizing with creatures on the pushback. You had an Avacyn, you had Selfless Spirit, wipe the board, deal him more damage, puts him in a real tough spot.
Yep, Avacyn flips because your Selfless Spirit got sacrificed. Yeah, just a lot of really powerful synergy there.
Now, is there any back end stuff happening there? Because obviously Avacyn flipping is going to kill your other spirits if you have them.
Correct, yeah. So sometimes Avacyn will sweep away the rest of your board, but usually if your Avacyn's flipped and gotten a hit in, you can usually just race in the air. And that's one of the things that this deck does a lot. Like, I was on camera round 3, and you'll see both of those games, I was at a fairly low life total at the end of the game. This deck is very much a recognize that you're using your life total as a resource, and so long as you're not at dead, they usually can't block your creatures, and you just want to make sure that you're one turn ahead in the race.
A lot like Fairies of old, where it's like you wait, flip the script, and then you're kind of pushing the damage, or?
Yeah, definitely. One of the other synergies that comes up in the deck too, we talked about Archangel Avacyn with Planner Outburst. We also have this copy of Essence Flux here in the spells. In addition to allowing you tricks with your spirits, for a 6-cost Planner Outburst, you can Essence Flux your Archangel Avacyn and get that same Selfless Spirit effect.
Right, keeping her alive through the wrath.
Yep, it also lets you flick your Avacyn after her damage trigger goes on the stack to protect the rest of your spirits from dying.
Wow. All right, that's got a lot of game to it.
Yep.
All right, so your creature base here, you got Mausoleum Wanderer, the new 1-drop that a lot of people think should be in all the Spirits decks.
Yep.
Biggest payoff. Selfless Spirit, which you mentioned, Rattle Chains, which gives your other spirits flash, hexproof, things like that. And of course, Spell Queller. This is the card of the day of Eldritch Moon, I think, when we all look at it. This is the card that is doing the most.
It's so super powerful. And on top of this just having a uniquely powerful effect, is the other 3 spirits you just listed before that all keep it alive. Rattle Chains gives it hexproof, Selfless Spirit makes it indestructible for combat and most removal spells. Mausoleum Wanderer force spikes things that want to get rid of it. You have so much power. Even Avacyn protects it. You have Spell Queller and then 16 things that say, this guy's going to hang out for a while.
Yeah, you're going to get the spell, and then they're not going to be able to kill it because you have infinite ways of just trying to keep it around while clocking.
Yep.
Plus, of course, the flash ability just allows it to be an in-step flyer, and just apply pressure.
Yep.
Other spells in the deck, you have a lot more counter spells in this deck. So, of course, you have Scatter to the Wind as a 1-up, but then you have 3 Clash of Wills kind of playing that other Broken Ambition style counter spell.
Yep, if we had Mana Leak, we'd play it, but we don't. A lot of the times you just the most powerful opening hands is if you want to die roll and you have turn 2 Clash or Rattle Chains, they're basically not winning the game. You're either stopping their powerful turn 2 play when a lot of strong plays happen in this format, or you're putting your clock on the table and then untapping with counter magic.
Right. Got 3 Ojutai's Command and 3 Stasis Snare. Stasis Snare just kind of the go-to removal spell that can grab Avacyn and things like that.
Yep, it's a sweet catch-all for anything that slips through. It's kind of, I was referring to it as our forgiveness card in testing because it lets you tap out for your Planner Outburst and then you can snare their follow-up plus have counter magic again usually. Ojutai's, this is the sweetest Ojutai's command deck I have ever played. It returns all 3 of our smallest spirits, so it can protect you from removal spells with Selfless Spirit. It counters instants and sorceries with Mausoleum Wander on occasion, and it usually draws a card while it's doing all that.
Right, does a lot of things.
Yep.
Of course, you mentioned the Planar Outburst, but you also have Anticipate, kind of here as Jerry calls it, a split card. Allows you to find a creature or a spell when you're looking for things.
Correct, yeah. So our original builds, because we're playing so many 5-drops, I started with 26 lands in the deck, and even with having the 26 land as a utility land, we were still flooding out a little bit more than I like, so we cut a land and a spell for 2 Anticipates. I've been pretty happy with that decision.
So are there any spirits that didn't make the cut that a lot of people are kind of seeing that should be in these decks that you kind of found were lackluster?
Niblis of the Frost was one that was just super underwhelming in a lot of our testing, and the primary reason for that is I really felt like I wanted to be playing a more Draw-Go type spirits deck with the counter magic, and Niblis of the Frost encourages you to be like playing cards on your turn to tap down their things so they don't untap during their next turn and get prowess triggers so you can be aggressive that way. I prefer to play this deck in a way where you're basically never tapping out unless you're sweeping the board with Outburst.
All right, makes sense. Moving on to the sideboard here, we have a bunch of 2-ofs, trying out a lot of things. Of course, we got some new cards, so we're going to talk about these. You've got the new Blessed Alliance, which has the new mechanic, of course, Escalate. Talk about that card.
So Celestial Flare was very playable when it was in Standard. This is just a strict upgrade from Celestial Flare. I think it's still playable in this format. All 3 of the modes are going to come up. You're going to get to randomly untap your Queller or your Flipped Avacyn and be profitable in combat in addition to eating one of their attackers. Edict a creature, gain 4 life against the white aggressive deck is a swing that you're very happy with. Ojutai's Command and Blessed Alliance against the aggressive decks, like that 4 life kick, is often the difference between dying a turn sooner and winning the race.
Okay. This is a new one here. We have Summary Dismissal. We've seen this kind of spoiled as like the new Mindbreak Trap or whatever, exiles things.
Yep.
Can hit all kinds of weird interactions in this format.
Yeah, so this card is great against all of the emerge and ramp creatures because it exiles all the abilities that are on the stack as well. So you're not tapping my lands, you're not drawing your card with your Wretch Grift, you're not exiling a land with Worldbreaker, you're not exiling 2 things with Ulamog. It's also an expensive Stifle when you need it to be. You can counter Planeswalker ultimates or kill Evolving Wilds, just anything you need. It's just super flexible.
Right, 4 mana Stone Rain if you need it.
It came up against Ferguson's Naya deck. It also exiles Dragonlord Jamoka.
Right. Hitting the uncounterable, no longer counterable.
Correct.
Bygone Bishop relegated to the sideboard as one of the better spirits we saw back, pre Eldritch Moon.
Yeah, so the pre-Eldritch Moon spirits decks were a lot more aggressive than this. They were basically like white splash blue aggro decks, and like I said, this deck is really more Draw-Go, and the Bygone Bishop and the Jace as well, they mostly come in against the decks where you're trying to like grind and go a little longer when you really need that extra card advantage.
Right, because with the extra negates and with the extra Planar Outburst and that package you just mentioned, you can kind of go into this long game.
Yeah, blue-white control deck, yep.
All right, got to talk about Silk Wrap and Negate. Those are just kind of staples of the format, but this is what we want here. Confirmed Suspicion. This happened to me at the pre-release. Bad times.
So this was a second scatter for a lot of our testing, and then we were going through all the matchups where like we wanted this extra hard counter, and we're just like, it's mostly against like the grindy decks and like the language decks in the format, and just like being able to draw 3 cards against them is so much more powerful than just having this random 3/3 that gets swept away.
Sure.
So that was a last minute change. I haven't gotten to bring it in yet, but I have high hopes for it.
Right. So you're already good against the language style decks because of how flash, style you can play.
Yep.
What about humans? That's the other pillar of the format. Is that deck not fast enough, or do you have enough pressure, or how does that matchup work?
It's very die roll dependent. If you're on the play, I feel like you're a favorite, and if you lose the die roll, you're definitely going to be a bit of a dog. Selfless Spirit is uniquely powerful in that matchup because if you have multiple spirits on the table, you can line up a bunch of blocks and then sack your Selfless Spirit, and then the rest of your guys eat theirs and don't trade in combat. It also lets you set up Avacyn sweeps against them, which is really powerful. We basically have 8 Wraths against them post-board.
All right, so that's how you get it done.
Yep.
Got a couple rounds under your belt. How's the deck feeling?
It feels more tuned than most of my week 1 lists. Like I said, I mentioned before we started, I think this is the first time I've ever played like 24 or 5 4-ofs in a deck list before, and it's very consistent.
All right, we're off to a great start. The people you've tested with are off to a great start. Wish you the best of luck. Thanks for joining here in the sideboard. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Columbus.